next song, a lot of my songs are stories, and this is a story too, actually. I come from Melbourne, and for about 10 or 15 years I worked in the inner city, just about 2 blocks from where one of the key events in this next song happened. And to my shame, I never knew about it most of that time. It was only towards the end of the time I learnt the story of, it was actually the story of the first hanging in the Port Phillip colony, which became the state of Victoria, the city of Melbourne and the state of Victoria. And believe it or not, the first 2 people hanged there were Tasmanian Aboriginal men, 2 Tasmanian Aboriginal men, who had been taken from their own land, and after all of their relatives were massacred or died from disease, and then they were put onto this island in the middle of Bass Strait, a settlement called Ballad, which was basically a concentration camp. And then as more people continued to die there, the guy that ran it, George Augustus Robinson, he got a job as the protector of Aborigines in Port Phillip colony, and he took 15 of the Tasmanians with him. And Tunnerminnerwait and Maulboyheener, the central characters in this song, saw that what was happening there was exactly what had happened in Van Diemen's Land or Tasmania. In fact, it was happening faster and quicker because the Port Phillip colony was originally settled by Tasmanians, Van Diemen's Land colonialists, one of whose name was the unlikely name of John Batman. Very evil man, actually. So anyway, this is the story. So they basically decided this was all wrong, and they sort of fomented a bit of a rebellion, and it didn't go very well for them. So this is the story of Tunnerminnerwait and Maulboyheener. And I sort of do this mainly because it's more, partly it's about the specifics of this story, but it's also partly about, I guess, the importance of understanding the deep history of the land you live on, wherever that happens to be. And I know there's a deep, very deep history in this part of the world. When you walk these streets of Melbourne with its towers of steel and glass, do you ever stop to think about the ghosts of centuries past? As you sip that cup of coffee, as you drink that glass of beer, you're doing it on country that's been lived on here for years. Elizabeth Street was a river, Queen Street Bridge was a waterfall, and Docklands was a swamp where you could hunt for waterfowl. I'll tell a tale of Franklin Street, a sad one but it's true, about the killing of 2 proud black men in 1842. Back in 1842. Remember Maulboyheener, remember Tunnerminnerwait. Don't forget their names, don't forget their fates, don't forget their struggles, don't forget the lies. When we remember, we can start to see this land through different eyes. These young men from Van Diemen's Land were raised up by their clans. They saw their loved ones murdered as the settlers stole their lands. And with the others they were taken to that hell in Ballad by George Augustus Robinson, the Aborigines protector. Oh, but they got no protection from death and from despair. So Robinson, he took 15 survivors out of there. He brought them to Port Phillip to try to buy some time, but it was a wild frontier, a land grab, back in 1839. Back in 1839. They lived down by Birrarung, on Robinson's estate. They could tell from all they saw it soon would be too late. They'd seen it in Van Diemen's Land, now here it was again. So into the bush they broke away, 3 women and 2 men. Hyderuna, Planobina, and Truganini too. Tunnerminnerwait and Maulboyheener they bid the town adieu. Remember Maulboyheener, remember Tunnerminnerwait. Don't forget their names, don't forget their fate. Don't forget their struggle, don't forget the lives. When we remember, we can start to see this land through different eyes. Well, they struck out for the hills and into the countryside. It was resistance, it was freedom, it was strength, it was pride. They stole some food, stole some guns, caused panic far and wide. The orders came to shoot on sight those natives who'd gone wild. For 6 long weeks they led the chase, into the bush they'd blend, till one day near Cape Patterson they shot 2 whaling men. Well, the law finally cornered them, surrender or you'll die. Come peacefully, you won't be harmed. That was just a lie, just one more bloody lie. White man's law then took its course. The outcome you can guess. Though the women were found innocent, the men were sent to death. So while settlers murdered thousands in that war to rule this land, the first to face the gallows in Port Phillip were 2 black men. They hanged them there in Franklin Street when the colony was new, just outside old Melbourne jail in 1842, back in 1842. Remember Maulboyheener, remember Tunnerminnerwait. Don't forget their names, don't forget their fates. Don't forget their struggle, don't forget the lives. When we remember, we can start to see this land through different eyes. When you walk these streets of Melbourne, with its towers of steel and glass, do you ever stop to think about the ghosts of centuries past?